Colorado's Democratic Senator Michael Bennet is slamming the selection process for the party's Democratic presidential debates.
The DNC process is stifling debate at a time when we need it most. We're rewarding celebrity candidates with millions of Twitter followers, billionaires who buy their way onto the debate stage, and candidates who have been running for president for years. If we wanted to be the party that excluded people, we'd be Republicans. These rules have created exactly the wrong outcomes, and they will not help us beat Donald Trump.
Bennet made his point at the Democratic National Committee's summer meeting today. We should point out Bennet doesn't have the polling support or the number of donors needed to qualify for September's debate. Candidates need 2% in 4 national polls and 130,000 unique donors. 10 candidates have qualified so far. The debate is scheduled for September 12th. If another candidate qualifies, then the candidates will split up between 2 nights.